The Peter Gordon Pod.
Hello, this is Bev, episode 2 in the Peter Gordon Pod. It wasn't really Bev. Hello and welcome. This is PG. That is Bev.
Hi.
And
Hi.
Here is the one and only Maestro Matt.
Hello.
Because to be honest with you, I'm going to call him Maestro Matt now because, you know, you could be listening to this at any time of day. So the morning Matt thing doesn't really work anymore. But he's Maestro Matt because he sort of puts this all together. You know, we do the sort of talking and stuff like that. And then Matt somehow joins everything together, you see. So that's, you know, so he's now Maestro Matt. Do you like that, Matt? Do you like that one?
It's like a snooker player nickname, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
Or a gravy.
Like Hurricane Higgins.
Hurricane, yeah.
Yeah.
What about gravy? Ooh, maestro.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Now, one of the things so I'm just going to put this out there right at the start before we go any further. I'm so sorry about this last week, but I'm going to try not to spoil any movies this week at all on this episode. So sorry that I got carried away last week. How is everyone? What have we got going on? Episode 1, you know, that was done and dusted. Thanks to everyone who reacted to it. It's been fantastic. So how is everyone? Bev, how are you since episode 1's been and gone?
Yes, all good, thank you. Only little festive updates I've got for you is that we have booked our first panto this year. We're not coming to see you. Oh, no, we're not.
Well,
but we are going to a drive-in panto.
That's nice.
Oh,
Yeah, that is nice.
Who knew that would be a thing?
Yeah, well, it's 2020. Anything goes this year, I'll tell you. That's good. So whereabouts is that then?
It is, I can't remember even where it is. I think it's Scion Park.
Okay. Put your sat-nav in, you might get there.
But I think it's Scion Park. But you literally pull in and there's a warm-up with some DJs and music and then there's all engagement and interaction and Cinderella it is.
Oh, no, it's not. So that's good. Morning, Matt. How have you been since episode 1?
very good. It's starting to feel a bit more Christmassy now.
Have you got rid of the pumpkin?
Pumpkin's gone.
A lot of people were concerned about that, and quite rightly so. I mean, you have a rotten pumpkin outside.
Still no Christmas decorations just yet, but I reckon, what is it now? Yeah, I reckon before December we will have our tree up.
All right. So I've got a couple of confessions. Since the last episode, a Christmas tree is up in the Gordon Towers household. I have to say, it was brought home by Mrs. G. I think even sort of literally the day after we last put the episode together. So that is that, and it's shining brightly looking at me here in the Gordon Towers living room. And that's fine, because a lot of people have got lights and trees and stuff up already. I've seen them all over the place, and that's absolutely fine, because absolutely, which is fine. However, the assault that I made on the Christmas pudding that I had yesterday with the brandy cream probably was a little bit previous.
He's back to premature Pete.
and thanks. And add to that, not only did I have hot, but because it was such a large pud, we still had some left over. So I've since had it cold with
so it's
cream.
Christmas pudding hot, Christmas pudding cold, Christmas pudding in the pot. It's never going to get to that long in your house.
No, it's not. So anyway, I thought I should put that there. I feel better. It's a cathartic thing for me. So, you know, now we're fully caught up. We know where we all are. And I'm sure there are some people listening right now. Maybe you've had a bit of Christmas pud already. Perhaps you're one of those people. And I did consider doing this just on my own the other day, by the way. Well, you pop into the shop and you know the little ones you can get. Just a little one portion ones. Perhaps you've got one of those and you've popped it in your microwave and you've put a little bit of brandy butter with it and you've had a nice little nibble. Anyway, if you have, don't worry, because, you know, we've all been there. Well, at least I have. Now, let's find out what's coming up on episode 2 very soon. We talk to this week's pod pal, and it's Rob O'Connor from Lock Rescue 24/7, local locksmith services for Surrey and Berkshire. We also are going to once again read out another Christmas hero today. Bev's going to have that for you. We hear about how leaving a space at a Christmas table for Christmas lunch a few years ago has suddenly turned into a major free Christmas lunch giveaway for many, many people in need over recent years. And it's happening again this Christmas, and we'll tell you how and why and where. We've also, thanks very much for your emails from last week as well. We've got a few catch-ups. on that. And as you know, if you're listening for the last episode, we are following our friends at Step by Step with their Christmas campaign this year, and we'll find out how things are going with that campaign as we go through the episode. All of that still to come.
The Peter Gordon Pod.
So we are delighted to welcome our pod pal for episode 2 of the Peter Gordon Pod from the Locksmith HQ in Chobham, and from Lock Rescue 24/7, it's Rob O'Connor. Hi, Rob.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Rob. And the world of locksmiths is great, isn't it? Because you don't generally know that you need a locksmith until you've locked yourself out or something's happened. It's one of those.
This is very true.
So how does that all work with you, Rob? You obviously just get calls from people saying, "Help!"
This is it. We're basically a Surrey and Berkshire-based locksmith company. People forgetting their keys, or running out on the school run and forgetting their keys, or generally upgrading their locks for their security. So it's a very wide range of what we cover for the security side.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that, of course. So I was being slightly frivolous around the whole people locking themselves out, which actually isn't that frivolous, because sometimes it's all a little bit too tense. But there is that sort of more strategic approach, isn't there, where people are always thinking about security. Maybe they've got to leave their property for a while, or whatever it may be. So that's another thing, is actually going and sort of assessing people's needs as well.
That's correct. Yeah, we offer a service where we come in free of charge, and we give you a survey of the security within the property. So it makes sure it all coincides with right BS standards of the home insurance and stuff like that. And then we advise you whether the locks are in good nick and it's all going to work well for you. If not, then we'll supply and install the new security that you need.
What's the most interesting bit of locksmith work that you've had, whether it be a particular property, or, I mean, obviously I don't want to divulge any sort of, secrets or anything, but there must be some interesting stuff, isn't there?
There is. It's very interesting. I mean, it's a very varied clientele that we have, but it can be from a standard jail lock where someone's locked themselves out or lost their keys, down to a safe. We break into a lot of safes. So it's just hugely varied. It's a very interesting week. I mean, Monday to Friday is never the same, so it's always very different.
Yes, breaking into people's safes. Interesting. So, just going back, the other thing is that it's obviously probably a sort of bit of a multi-level job, because not only is the practical aspects of sorting people's locks out and maybe letting people back into properties and things when they've locked themselves out, but to a certain extent, you probably arrive to fairly panicked customers. So you've got to be a bit of a sort of counsellor to a certain extent, I suppose, haven't you?
You do indeed. I think it's about calming the situation down, assessing what the problem is, and then trying to do what we need to do and get into the property as quick as possible, really. I mean, it's all very frantic to start off with, and sometimes people feel embarrassed, but therefore we're there to cover a service and to get into the property. We specialise in non-destructive entry, so therefore most of our work is non-destructive. We would either pick the locks, or we have certain tricks and things up our sleeve to get in and out. So that's what we do. But yeah, we pride ourselves on non-destructive entry. So it's and we're very good at it. So
in terms of people getting in touch, I know you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, but there's a website as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so the website is www.lockrescue247.co.uk, and you can email us on info@lockrescue247.co.uk. We're a 24-hour service. We literally cover 365 days a year. And like I said before, we've got some nice promotions coming up in December where we're free of charge. We'd come out and we give you a site survey of the property to make sure you're all secure. It's get in contact and we'll get you booked in.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Rob, thank you very much indeed for being our pod pal for this week. And obviously, as people have already heard from our first episode, when you're a pod pal, you get to nominate a charity where we'll donate £100 to them. So who have you got for us this week, Rob?
So the charity we're donating to is the Dementia Centre, and it's called Emma's House, and it's run by Rodwell Nursing Home, and they're based in Ottershaw. Very fond charity of mine that we do a lot of work with. Very happy.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob, and we'll make sure that £100 goes to them. It's an absolute joy to have you on Lock Rescue 24/7, local locksmith services for Surrey and Berkshire. Rob O'Connor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Peter Gordon Pod with PG, Bev and Matt.
Yeah, and thanks again to Rob O'Connor from Lock Rescue 24/7, local locksmith services for Surrey and Berkshire. They are our pod pal for this episode. Now, one of the things we're doing each episode as we're heading along towards Christmas is we're asking you to nominate a Christmas hero, someone that you think has gone a bit above and beyond this year. So many people have, I have to say, and we want to recognize them a little bit on this particular podcast. So, Bev, who have we got this week?
Yeah, so the email that we have this week came from Dorothy Beardsall, and it says, "Hiya, guys." Well, hiya, Dottie. I would like to nominate Karen Jackson from CSSEF, as all through lockdown, she has made sure that people that needed batteries for hearing aids and other devices to help people hear have been able to get them, and not just locally either. Even though her charity has suffered lots with not being able to do her usual fundraising days, which I love helping with, says Dottie, she has still done her utmost best to keep in touch with everyone. She is a diamond in the rough for local families with deaf children. Thank you for reading, says Dorothy. And congratulations. Well done, Karen. What a fantastic lady and fantastic work that you've done this year. So thank you.
Really good. Good example of what we're looking for. So what about someone you know, someone perhaps you're a good friend with, maybe someone in your family, maybe someone you have just come across because of the tricky times that we have had this year, has done a bit of good and needs a bit of a mention on this podcast. We'd love to hear from you. The email address, Maestro Matt, do you know the email address? This is what I want to know. It doesn't.
I do. It's the petergordonpod@gmail.com.
Yeah. Leave out the. Anyway.
petergordonpod@gmail.com.
That's the one. Very good. Put you on the spot and enjoy that.
Yeah.
Keep you on your toes. So anyway, we'd love to hear from you, and do please get in touch, and we will pick more people out over the coming few weeks here on the Peter Gordon Pod. And in just a moment, we are going to find out about a free Christmas lunch. Actually, it's not just one lunch. There's a whole load of lunches. We'll find out about it right now.
The Peter Gordon Pod. Thanks for listening.
So as you may have discovered so far on the Peter Gordon Pod, we do like catching up with people that are doing good things, organizations that are doing good things all around our area. Now, here is an interesting one. The Gaskins free Christmas lunch. You may or may not have heard about it. A lot of people have so far. Joining us on the line from the Gaskins Free Christmas Lunch HQ is the one and only Matt Gaskin. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Yeah, fine. Thank you for joining us. This is a really amazing thing. So, just tell me first of all. So, in the end, you offer free Christmas lunches. That's basically what we're talking about. But let's go back to the beginning. Where did the idea start?
Right. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Peter, for having us on the Peter Gordon Pod, and for giving us a chance to get the message out there to hopefully reach a number of people that can benefit from our event. It started back a number of years ago. As I grew up as a child, my family always used to have a spare space left at the table, which was always tradition for the stranger or for someone that passed away that year. And so we'd always set an empty space at the table. I married again 15 years ago. My Polish wife, Marta, also had the same tradition. Apparently, this is a tradition that runs in Poland as well. And this is where I found out, my mum being part Polish, was where it originally came from. So we always had a spare space. And one year, about 6-7 years ago, my daughter, Mia Isabella, who's at St. Thomas of Canterbury School, which becomes relevant later on, said, "Dad, but we've all got a spare space and spare food. Why don't we have someone else for dinner on Christmas Day?" So we said, "Well, okay, fair enough. Who?" She said, "Well, anyone. Someone that doesn't have a mummy or daddy, or someone that doesn't have or can't afford food, someone that doesn't have a house, or homeless or vulnerable." She said, "Anyone, Dad. It just seems stupid not to have someone fill that space." So we said, okay, so we sort of put the feelers out, and my wife noticed that in the local Jacobswell Village newsletter, and we had an elderly lady came to spend Christmas Day with us, and she was part of the family. We gave her a gift, And she sat down and had Christmas meal. We picked her up and then we took her home afterwards, etc. But we still had that tradition where we kept an empty space. So the following year, my daughter said, well, can't we have someone else? I said, but we've already got an extra person. So this grew, and it ended up getting to 22 people at home. And I don't live in a mansion. I live in a semi-detached house in Jake as well. So it got up to 22 people, and we had 2 dining rooms and a kitchen full of tables and people sitting around eating.
Right.
But we still had that tradition, that empty space. So my daughter said, well, what are we going to do next year? I said, well, I can't fit any more in, darling. I said, I'm having to hire a van to take the people backwards and forwards afterwards and before. I said, I can't fit any more people in. She said, so my wife said, well, why don't we do it in the village hall? That's when I did a massive gulp and thought, oh, what am I going to do now? I'm managing director of my own business. We support computers. I can cook. And I thought, well, okay, this is a challenge. So then the next year we hired Jake as well Village Hall, and we had 100 people, which was challenging. And at the end of that day, obviously I went home a lot, obviously to tidy up and things like that. And then when I went home, absolutely shattered with a glass of wine and fell asleep. So then next year starts coming around, and we thought, well, okay, what are we going to do? Because we had a lot of people that we couldn't cater for. So we said, well, okay, let's look at doing it somewhere else. So St. Joseph's Church Hall, I'm a member of St. Edward's Church in Guildford, and St. Joseph's Church Hall in Guildford recommended that we could use their hall, which seats up to 300 people. We thought, oh no, this is getting a bit more of a challenge. So we had 265 people we fed last year. We had 15 drivers picking up guests and taking them home, etc., etc. Everyone was provided with a gift, which was all donated. Not a penny is spent. It is all donated from local businesses. And I can, if it's okay with you, I'll mention some of them. Vincent's Butchers in Woking, they donate turkeys. Mayor Brown in Woking, they subsidise more pigs and blankets, stuffing balls and things like that. My own business, Unigot 2000, we do things like all the chutneys, bread sauce, gifts and things like that. Chapters Financial, Keith Churchhouse and Esther, fantastic couple. They also donate and help. So they paid for the things like the Christmas decorations and all that sort of things last year. G3 Solutions in Hazelmere, another one that helps, donated all the drinks and that last year. Squisitos did the containers. So, because we also had food left over, so people wanted to take it home. So we did that last year as well. The Village Barbers in Horsell, they help and donate money to for odds and ends, and because believe it or not, there is some costs. But last year, Bentley Brown donated all the cutlery and crockery. We had Mac Entertainment doing live entertainment on the day. So we normally have live entertainment on that. Waitrose did all the Christmas puddings. Christmas Bakery did all the mince pies, which we're hoping still, shout out to Waitrose and Christmas Bakery, we're still hoping to get them on board this year.
So as we get to this year then, Matt, because it's an amazing story. And it's unbelievable. It's fantastic stuff, this. But of course, this year is 2020, and we all know what 2020 has been around. So presumably you can't gather all those people together. So what's the plan for this year?
Well, yeah, that's the challenge we thought. And a number of people said to us, are you going to cancel? You know, we enjoyed it so much last year. We want to come again, but we know we can't because of social distancing and et cetera, et cetera. And we thought, well, we might have to cancel it. But about 3 weeks ago, and I was contacting different people and finding out, what are the challenges? What can we do? What we can't do? Speaking to local government officials to find out what the guidelines are and so on and so on. It's obvious we can't meet. That can't happen. But what we have decided to do is to still provide the meal. But what we are doing is delivering to the homes. So we've started posting on Facebook. We've started tweeting it out on my Twitter account and LinkedIn and so on and so on. So far, we've got just over 100 people signed up for deliveries at home. We've got 15 drivers to come and pick up. We've even got meals now going as far as Slough and Windsor. So I've got people that have phoned up and said, can you deliver in Slough, Windsor? I've got drivers coming over from Slough to pick up. That's the first thing. Great, excellent, we can do it. Next challenge was, where are we going to do it? I can't have drivers coming in and out of my house and so on. And at my house, I can only cook for so many people. So then went out, well, what can we do? Where are we going to do it? And luckily, St Thomas of Canterbury School and the headmaster, Mr Neil Lewin, has donated the school kitchen for us to use on Christmas Day. We're up to 100 people. We need more diners. We can cater probably up to 300 people. And what we're doing is the drivers will come in, pick up the food in containers and deliver it. Safely distancing, all wearing masks and gloves, etc. Drop it on your doorstep, knock on your door and stand at least 2 meters away, giving you the food for Christmas Day. Still a full Christmas meal. Roast turkey, roast potatoes, carrots, Brussels, pigs in blankets, stuffing, and you'll even get a mince pie and a Christmas cracker. Unfortunately, things like live entertainment and things like we can't do a starter as well, like soup and things like that. It's a little bit more tricky to start transporting. So we've cut down the meal, but still provide the service on Christmas Day.
It's a magnificent story. It's fantastic. I love the way it started from a spare place at your table, and now you're talking hundreds, and even this year you're going to be sorting it out with delivery. You're talking about the fact that you do need more diners. So this is really what we're about here on the pod. Can you just give me a few examples, say from perhaps maybe last year, Matt? Just who are you talking about here? Who could get in touch, or indeed who could other people get in touch for them? If you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, the meal is actually open for anyone. When we first started off, the concept was to start off for the homeless and vulnerable people of Guildford. As if obviously people tuned in last week, you would have heard from Peter Clough, about the vulnerability and the poverty that there is in Guildford, which is still quite hidden, and people don't realise, being in such an affluent area, on how much poverty and vulnerable families there are. Now, Peter obviously highlighted that last week. So there are a lot of different families. So yes, it started off with just the homeless and vulnerable, but then it's grown. Last year we thought, well, okay, which was the first year, and we had people on their own. We had people that were alone, that people wanted to just be with other people on Christmas Day. Then last year we thought, well, no, look, we can't just specify just people that are vulnerable. There's got to be other people out there that want a meal. So last year we had all the refugees from Guildford. So we had Syrian, Eritrean refugees from Guildford. We had doctors and nurses. We had 2 surgeons turned up that were actually at the Royal Surrey, that were between surgeries on Christmas Day, because they didn't want to go back to their homes. It was too far to travel, etc., etc. So they came in, they sat down and had a Christmas meal, and then went back to surgery in Royal Surrey. We had doctors, nurses. It was open to anyone, absolutely anyone. Obviously, it wasn't built for Mr. and Mrs. Smith at home that have already got a Christmas turkey planned, etc., etc. It's for people that need it, and obviously the loneliness is still going to be a shame. They're still going to be on their own this year, which hopefully it is only going to be this year. But it is really just to try and reach out and reach those people that can't. This morning I've had 3 emails from Surrey University, because a lot of students don't go home for Christmas. So I've got 3 students this morning, 2 Chinese and another student from Ghana, who said, am I eligible? So of course you are. Anyone's eligible. Instead of having a canteen meal or no meals, because a lot of places at university are closed over Christmas. The restaurants aren't open. What do? Have a sandwich? A lot of the accommodation doesn't give them the facilities to be able to cook in there. So yes, we will deliver to the university as well. So it is generally open to anyone.
Well, Matt, what can I say? It's a fantastic story. It's great stuff, and it's real action going on as well, right in the heart of our community, which is what it's all about, particularly this year of all years, I have to say. So the big thing is, I know you've got a website, so where it may well be someone listening to this, perhaps they aren't someone that needs to take advantage of this particular fantastic offer, but maybe they know someone that can, or et cetera, et cetera. So website, please.
Yes, the website is freechristmaslunch.com. And on there, you will find all the contact details for myself and my wife, Marta. There's an email address as well. So everything is on the website. What we're doing this year compared to last year. There are actual photographs on there as well of last year's event. So you'll actually see a gallery of all sorts of different things going on, which makes it quite interesting. You'll see. And then hopefully next year, you may want to come along to the live event, where we have live entertainment and everyone gets a Christmas gift. And it's just part of the big family.
It's brilliant. Fantastic. What can I say? Matt Gaskin, we wish you all the very best of luck. I know it's still November as we're recording this, but now I wish you and your family and all involved in the big exercise a very happy Christmas. And thanks for joining us, Matt.
No problem at all. Thank you very much, Peter.
The Peter Gordon Pod.
And it's with PG and Bev and Maestro Matt as well. And just a reminder, when we're featuring charities, and charity events and organizations that we talk about. We do try and post links and various social media handles onto our social media as well. So if you don't catch it as you're listening, all the rest of it, don't worry. If you go back to our social media, or indeed maybe listen to this again when you can catch it, then it should all be fine. And we'll do that as we go through the series. Okay, so episode 1 went and gone. We're now here in episode 2. And thank you to the various emails that we received. First of all, thanks for the social media feedback. I've had lots of it. It's been great. But also people emailing us as well. Thank you to Tina, who's been in touch. Saying, and she wanted to be one of the first people to email off the back of the first episode. And indeed she was. And she said, because I'd hate PG to be sitting all day doing nothing. Thank you. That's a reference to the fact that I am the email guru for this particular podcast. Anyway, Tina goes on and say, it's just like Radio 4. That's very kind of you, Tina. I'm not quite sure what Radio 4 might make of that, or indeed what we should make of it, but it's very kind, and thanks for listening. Thanks to Jim Story, old friend of ours from Fleet Lions, who do a lot of good, of course, in the Fleet area. And Jim, nice to have you on. Nice to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed. Also to Tracy Elsa, who's been in touch from Farnham, missing the panto, but loving all the charity stuff on the podcast. Thank you, Tracy. Also to Will, just listened to my first podcast, and I wanted to say it was great to hear you all, and hope things grow from here. Well, thank you very much indeed, Will, for that. Also to James, I know who's a loyal listener, James Harwood, who's got a little bit of hospital treatment coming up soon, and I wanted to say a wonderful thank you to cardiac nurses Mel, Linda and Jane, and the Wessex Heartbeat charity, a big mention. James, we wish you all the best. And I think the Neens has been in touch.
The Neens has been in touch. Neens, we got your, we said your name wrong last week. We said Goodwin and not Goodman. Sorry, Neens. How could we get that wrong? Anyway, she says, good to have you back. You guys are like 3 peas in a pod. Now, Neens goes on to say, can I be a bit cheeky? I'm celebrating my big 5-0 next Saturday. So if I ask nicely, please, may I have a shout out? Well, of course you can, Neens. Happy birthday.
Oh, yes. You know, Neen's going to be emailing every week on this, even if it's not your birthday. I know, Neen, and it's fine. You're more than welcome. Now, listen, we love to get your emails. Tell us what you think of the episodes. Tell us what you think of what you're hearing. We probably need to know. And you can drop us a line. Maestro Matt, can you remember the email address now?
Our email address is petergordonpod@gmail.com.
I tell you what, he's not just a pretty face, is he? Good job, it's a podcast.
The Peter Gordon Pod. Thanks for listening.
So each episode in this series, as we're running up to Christmas, we are featuring a charity that's based locally that is in the middle of a big campaign for Christmas. They're called Step by Step, and Bev's got the update.
Yeah, I have. And when we spoke to them last week, they explained a little bit about what they do. And in case anyone isn't aware of Step by Step, they are a fantastic charity based in Aldershot, offering accommodation and support to vulnerable young people locally. And they have a special campaign at the moment, which is a Christmas campaign where they want to support young people over the festive period, offering accommodation and support over the Christmas time. And it will cost, they said, £30 per person to do that. And they're aiming to offer that support to 272 local vulnerable young people. So are asking if anybody is able to donate. That would be amazing.
And where have they got to at the moment?
Yeah, so they're up to £2,181, which is brilliant, but there is still a little way to go to be able to offer that service for all they want to.
So the actual Christmas campaign is actually a really big campaign. The sort of Christmas Day bit is one part of it, but actually the appeal itself carries on after that. So you can find out more if you go to their website. It's stepbystep.org.uk. That's stepbystep.org.uk. And if you can get involved, then thank you very much.
The Peter Gordon Pod with PG, Bev and Matt.
Well, that is almost it for episode 2. I can't believe it's absolutely flown by, hasn't it, Bev? Flown by.
Flown by. Absolutely flown by.
Yeah, excellent. So I've decided this last little bit that we're going to have, we didn't do it for episode 1 because I hadn't thought of it by then, off and away. However, we're going to call it Any Other Business, so AOB. So let's go around the meeting. So Maestro Matt, who's picked up a new name from, this is a bit of a historic episode, this really. It's, Maestro Matt, any other business?
No other business.
Bev, need to think of a new name for you. Any other business?
Well, do you know what? I'm going to agree with something, and this is something I don't normally do, but I am going to agree with you. Now, only on this one occasion, because you know how you always go on that films that have 2s and 3s and 4s, whatever, they're absolutely rubbish and they should never be made again.
Sequels. Yeah, the sequels. Yeah.
It should stick as the original, and that is it.
Yeah.
Well, for the first time last week, I watched Home Alone 2.
Oh, right. Oh, hang on. We're going back to that again, are we?
And I've got to agree with you.
Well, I haven't seen that one yet.
No, I know, but there's no such thing. It's not good.
Oh, is it not?
No.
So what you're saying, I can't believe I'm doing this again. So are you saying I shouldn't bother?
No, what I'm saying is, I get your point. Sequels aren't worth it.
Yeah. It's remakes as well that I've not liked either. That's my issue. But well, okay, well, I'll avoid it. I was seriously considering doing
Jungle? But not the Jungle.
The
call it the Jungle.
The castle.
Have you went to the castle?
The castle. I dipped in and out, I have to say. Dipped in and out. And of course, as this episode is airing, it's probably got about a week left, hasn't it? I've dipped in and out. Maestro Matt, have you been doing any of the...
I watched the first episode, but then I got annoyed because the fact they still had the live clock in the corner. And people were saying, well, why do we need to know the time? Because it's not like it's Australia. But yeah, just dipped in and out.
That's a fair point. My any other business is just thanking our pod pals for this series, of course. Last week, it was our friends at Branston Adams, tax accountants and business advisors. And also soon, we're going to have a pod pal from Michael Usher Mortgages as well. And maybe a few more. If you want to find out more about being a pod pal, then do drop us a line. Maestro Matt, the email is...
petergordonpod@gmail.com.
He's got it. I knew we'd nail it by the end of the episode. So that's the main thing. And of course, this particular episode 2 of the Peter Gordon Pod, our pod pal, has been Lock Rescue 24/7, local locksmith services for Surrey and Berkshire. And thank you to them. Thank you to you for listening as well. That is it from us. So, Bev to be renamed says...
Bye-bye.
Maestro Matt says...
Goodbye.
And that is goodbye from me. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.
The Peter Gordon Pod. Thanks for listening.